Hi there, thanks for tuning in. In this short video, I'm going to talk to you about applying EQ to vocals. And more specifically, I'm going to give you 5 really quick little tips that will hopefully help you next time it comes to equalizing a nice vocal or voice recording. Before we start, I want to make sure you're approaching EQ with the right mindset. And it's important to remember that the tone and the character of your vocal is decided in the recording phase, and you need to spend a lot more time on mic position and mic choice to get the sound that you want. Because with EQ, we can only emphasize what's already there or surgically remove the stuff that we don't like nasty room resonances or sibilants and nasal sounds. So make sure you concentrate on finding a sound that you like in the recording phase, because if you want your vocal to sound warm, for example, you need to do that by picking a dynamic mic and getting close to it, as an example. Or if you want it to sound open and natural, you'd pick a condenser and get further away. You can't make a vocal sound the way you want with EQ alone. But there are some EQ moves that you can do to make your vocal sound even better, which is what I'm going to show you now. So let's jump into Pro Tools. Of course, you can apply these 5 tips in any DAW or with any EQ. I just like to use Pro Tools. So let's go ahead. Tip number 1 is to cut before you boost. And this is called Subtractive EQ. And it's not as important as it used to be in the analog days. It goes back to when there was lots of noise when you're using analog equipment, and boosting on an EQ would not just be boosting the frequencies, it would also be boosting the noise floor underneath. But apart from that, it's just a really good way to approach EQ, and I prefer to use Subtractive EQ as a way to force me into the right mindset. It still has lots of benefits in the digital realm. It means you have more headroom rather than boosting your level, you're cutting it, and a few other benefits, but mostly if we approach EQ with a subtractive mindset, it will just end with much better results. So for example, if I wanted my vocal to sound brighter, instead of boosting the highs, which you could do, and in some situations a little high shelf works really well to add some more air. But what you could do instead, if you wanted it to sound clearer, for example, is cut some of the bass. So let's have a quick listen to this vocal that I've got here. You can see all I've got is a bit of gain on it to get up to that sweet spot around -18, averaging around -18, and then I've just got a 7-band EQ. Let's have a quick listen.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
So you can hear it's quite an intimate sound. Say for example I wanted to make it a bit clearer, I could boost some of the highs around a wide boost around 2 to 6K would add to the clarity. Let's have a listen to how that sounds.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
But instead of doing that, we could cut some of the bass around, say, 150 Hertz. And this would have a similar effect. Let's have a listen, cutting it around 150. I'll go about the same, about 5 dB, just so you can hear it quite clearly. Now let's have a listen to that.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
So you can hear it has a really similar effect, but instead of boosting frequencies, we're reducing them. Now this will still interfere with the phase of other frequencies when we're using a cut, but it's just a much better way to do things. Of course, you can still use boosts if you want to give it a certain character, or you have an EQ effect that you like the character and the tone of. Of course, you can use it to boost, but use subtractive where you can. I'd also recommend putting subtractive EQ before your compressor and boost after. That's something to try. Of course, again, there are no rules, but I find that that works best for me. Tip number 2 is to never boost or cut by more than about 5 decibels when it comes to vocals. Now, on drums, you could cut quite aggressively. Say there was a ringing tom, you could find the frequency of that ring and you could cut it by 15 decibels. Or you could boost, if you wanted to have a really obvious effect, you could boost the highs. But with vocals, I wouldn't recommend going more than 5 dB cut or boost, because you need to keep it natural. We hear voices every day, and out of any instrument or musical source, voice is the one that we're most used to. So as soon as you start applying lots of drastic EQ, it really quickly makes the vocal sound unnatural and just odd to our ears. So 3 dB is a good kind of guideline. That's the point at which you're going to be able to hear a clear difference without it being too drastic. But you could go up to 5 dBs if you wanted to have more of an effect. But again, I wouldn't recommend going higher than that. So let's have a listen to this cut that I just made around 150. Let's bring that up to -10. And now listen to how unnatural this sounds.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
So now the vocal sounds far too tinny. It sounds fake, it doesn't sound full and natural. Whereas at 5 dB, which is still quite an extreme cut, -5, have a listen now and it will sound a lot more natural.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
There you go, you can hear it's still got that bottom end, it's still got the body to the voice. Even with 5 dB, which is the top kind of limit, and with 3 dB, it's going to sound even more natural.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
There we go, that's where I'd recommend starting. Tip number 3 is to cut everything below 80 Hz. Now, sometimes this is a bit too high. Some male voices will actually be centered, they're fundamental. If they have a really deep voice, will actually be below 80 Hz, but that's quite unlikely. I like to use this as just a really quick, easy way to clean up the vocal, remove some of the bass, which makes it a bit clearer, and remove some of the kind of muddiness. And also it gets rid of all that low end noise. A lot of people like to apply high pass filters to absolutely everything, and I really don't think you need to do that. That can quite quickly lead to a thin mix. But things like vocals, I definitely recommend it. So let's have a listen to how that would sound if I go to 80. And on females, you can definitely go even higher than 80. And even on some male vocals, you could go higher than 80. Let's have a listen without it, and then I'll engage it and play it again for you. So this is natural without an EQ.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
And now with a high pass filter at 80 Hz.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
And I'm going to bring it up a bit more to just over 100 so you can hear how that sounds.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
You can hear it just cleans it up instantly. I'd probably go around 80 here because I quite like the bottom end on this vocal. But you can go up to 100, even higher on females, and that'll just remove a lot of that low end noise. But it will also clear up a bit more and remove some of the power in the bass to reveal some more of the clarity and openness on the top end. Tip number 4 is that if you are going to use boosts, quite a common area where we have similarity between lots of voices is that boosting between 2 and 6 kilohertz can really easily give some clarity to your recording. Now, every voice is different. On the lower end, when we're talking about mud and bass, it's going to be very different for females and males and different registers of voice. However, 2 to 6 kilohertz is always going to be that top end sizzle that we get that adds to the clarity. So if I put this EQ at 4 kilohertz, which is halfway between 2 and 6, make it nice and wide, and I'll start at 5 just so you can hear the difference. And halfway through, I'm going to reduce it to 3 because I think that's going to be kind of the upper limit of what we're going to want to boost here. So let's have a listen first at a 5 decibel boost from 2 to 6 kilohertz. Just listen for how much clarity it adds.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
And now let's try it at 3 decibels boost.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
So you can hear it just adds a bit more clarity in that kind of upper mids range. Be careful here though, because sibilance is centered around 4K as well. So if you boost this too much, it's going to add to the sibilance, especially if you have a very sibilant singer. So beware of that. Last tip number 5, is that if the vocal sounds a bit muddy, try cutting around 300 hertz, and it could be anywhere between 250 and 400. You just need to experiment a bit, but it's going to be somewhere around 300. So if I remove this high pass filter and this boost here, and let's give it a bit of a cut around, I'm going to think that it's going to be quite low on this, so maybe 300. Let's try a bit lower, 280. Again, I'm going to use quite a drastic cut just so you can hear the difference. I'm going to play it again normally and then play it again with 300 out and see if you can hear how it's a bit less muddy. I don't think this vocal particularly needs it. It's not a very muddy sounding vocal, but you'll be able to hear the kind of characteristic of mud that I'm talking about. So first of all, let's listen to it clean.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
And now with quite a drastic cut around 280.
So let it rain, 'cause I wanna drown.
So you can hear it just removes a bit of that mud. The thing to do now is to experiment and find the right frequency. I don't think that's quite it, but if you've got a muddy sound, try cutting around somewhere around 300 hertz. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get updates about future videos similar to this one, tutorials and tips about recording at home, mixing, mastering, everything. If you like the video, give it a quick thumbs up and hand it over to homestudiocenter.com, which is where I teach a lot more. Sign up over there for lots of exclusive content and more great tutorials and advice. So until next time, see you then.